you for tuning in to another edition of the Business of Fun podcast. I'm your host, Dave Wakeman. My guest today is the CEO of AudienceView, Mark Fowlie. But first, how's everybody? Let me know what you're up to. I've been checking in and making sure that at the beginning of each podcast introduction, I ask how you're doing. I really do mean this. I really do want you to check in with me, Dave at davewakeman.com. Let me know what's going on. I'm here for you if you want to talk, if you want to bounce an idea off of me, if you want somebody to crack a couple jokes and make you laugh, I'll do my best. But send me an email. It's dave@davewakeman.com. I want to know how everybody's holding up because I know that this has been an incredibly difficult time. And even as I hope everybody has had a chance to get a little bit of a summer break or do some kind of fun summer things without the pandemic holding over their head the entire time, I understand how difficult it is. Just the other day, the D.C. Public Schools announced that D.C. kids will be going back to school remote only until at least November. So I understand people are under a lot of pressures that they haven't been before. They're dealing with things they maybe aren't sure how to handle. So make sure you check in with me. Let me know how everybody's doing. Let me know if there's any way I can support you. Send me an email, dave@davewakeman.com. I want to point you to a couple of my friends. People who have been longtime supporters, longtime friends, longtime just awesome people. I'll start with my friends at Booking Protect. You know about them, right? Simon, Kat, Kath, Abby, Sophie, the whole team. Some of the nicest, greatest people in the world. And they are working tirelessly to make sure that everybody in the industry can get back on their feet as fast and as securely as possible. Sophie, who runs the social media stream for Booking Protect, has been doing a killer job on Instagram. She has been posting tons of pictures, quotes, and content about live experiences and what they mean to people. Lessons learned during the pandemic, all kinds of great stuff. So give them a follow on LinkedIn or Instagram. Check the website out. It's bookingprotect.com. Like I've been teasing you for a while now, I am pulling together some stuff that's going to go over to Booking Protect exclusively about revenue and about lessons learned and about all kinds of cool stuff. That's going to go right along with all the stuff that Sophie has been sharing, and great articles by people like Kat, who has been talking about how to rebuild trust with your customers and your audience now coming back, especially after some of the challenges that people dealt with at the start of the pandemic. I mean, it's just a great resource. So check them out, bookingprotect.com. And if you've been thinking about whether or not refund protection fits into what you're going to do when you come back, it's a good time to talk to them, right? So check them out, bookingprotect.com. The next people I want to point you towards are my friends at ActivityStream. That's a great team of people led by Einar and Martin. If you don't know about my trip to Australia, I'm not going to tell you because me and the ActivityStream crew, we tore it up. Now it's completely fun, but I got to know these guys way better than ever before. ActivityStream is leading the way to help people recover and overcome this pandemic and the financial crisis that's surrounded by putting together this incredible effort called the We Will Recover Project, which you can find at wewillrecover.live. And it is a group of, I think, 20 at least people from around the world, led by the folks at ActivityStream, including the audience agency, After Digital, Stay 22, TPC UK, TPC Australia, Antix Management, Intix, Schubert Organization, AudienceView, Eventum, SeatGeek, Ticket Business News, Giel Meiden Kais, AXS, Secutix, me, QQ, Andres Ekstrom, and TRG Arts. I wanted to list everybody because I always forget to list somebody, and I tell you that the same people over and over again. But We Will Recover is a great resource with articles, webinars, video, a community platform, all kinds of great things. So check it out at wewillrecover.live. It is a really great way to learn how to take some ideas from around the world, incorporate them into your business, and help everybody recover from the pandemic. One thing of mine I would like to point you to is the Talking Tickets newsletter. It's got a new home. It's at talkingtickets.substack.com. And what I've been doing in the Talking Tickets newsletter for the last couple weeks is I have been running a survey. And the survey is going to help guide the content, guide the podcast, guide a lot of stuff that I'm doing. Actually, the episode you're about to listen to with Mark came due to the survey I was doing, because people were like, oh, can you get Mark? And I was like, well, I probably can. And so, that was some things. And then there's episodes with guys like Harold Hughes from Bandwagon. He's coming on. There's an episode coming up with him. So there's like some really, really great people coming up. People have asked questions about revenue generation, about customer engagement, customer growth, all kinds of great things. So get the newsletter at talkingtickets.substack.com. And I have been including that survey. And if you just want to fill out the survey because you're hearing this now and you haven't had a chance, send me an email, dave@davewakeman.com. I can add you to the newsletter, and I can send you a link to the survey. It's going to help me be a better servant to you, to give you better ideas, help you point you to the right resources, and do all kinds of great stuff together. So check that out, the Talking Tickets newsletter at talkingtickets.substack.com. Like I mentioned at the start, my guest today is Mark Fowlie from AudienceView. And I'm really excited for you to listen to this, because Mark was really forthcoming with his ideas on leadership. One thing that's really there's been several things that have really stuck with me over the last couple days since we recorded this. But one thing that I really appreciated was how open Mark was about some of the things that have been successful for AudienceView during the pandemic and leading through the pandemic. But he also talked about some of the really challenging situations that they dealt with as well. And something that I think is really important for people to keep in mind right now is that before the pandemic, we were all doing a very good job of sharing that Instagram-worthy view of our businesses and our lives. And I think we all recognize that wasn't necessarily always a true and accurate reflection of who we are or where our businesses were. And so sometimes I've tried to do a better job of talking about where things are struggling or where I'm having success or where I came from, or, a little bit more regularly, just to help put some of these ideas and concepts and things that I'm working on into context. And Mark does a really great job of that. And it really has stuck with me over the last few days. So we talked about his leadership philosophy, the way he's handled leadership during this crisis. And we talked about how he's setting AudienceView up with his team to be successful going forward. We talked about keeping the right mindset, and we talked about how focusing on some of these things that might not have his team might not have the time to do in a normal environment has managed to help everybody keep a positive mindset. We've talked about innovation. We talked about revenue. We talked about recovery. We talked about a lot of the learning and content creation that AudienceView has, been putting together during the pandemic. We talked about how teaching people to change. We talked about the interaction necessary to create real learning. We talked about the future. We talked about a lot of stuff. This is like a really, really, I think, an interesting conversation. I'm excited for you to hear it, and I'll be really excited to hear what you think. So without any further things from me, here's Mark Fowlie from AudienceView. I want to welcome Mark Fowlie from AudienceView to the Business of Fun podcast. Mark, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Dave. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, no, this is going to be awesome. People are very excited to hear our conversation, so hopefully we will do them justice. I know you will. It's more whether or not I do my part of the job here.
I'm sure you're doing just fine. No worries.
Yeah. Now, I want to start out by asking you something, because I know AudienceView touches markets around the world, through all the different properties you have and all the different partners. One thing I've been curious about when talking to everybody is what's your leadership philosophy been during the pandemic and the financial crisis around the pandemic, as far as dealing with people and leading an organization right now?
Yeah, that's a great question, and obviously, there's no real playbook here for how to deal with a global pandemic, particularly in the world of live entertainment and events. It's unprecedented, as many people have commented. And for us from the beginning, we kind of just looked at this from sort of four key areas. And obviously the very first concern was the health and well-being of our employees. And that meant that, we immediately, mid-March, went to a work from home protocol, which actually from a technology standpoint was not that difficult. We had to increase some bandwidth here and there and up our, Ring Central accounts and things like that. But with a pretty large remote workforce on a normal course of business anyway, that wasn't a huge leap for us. But that was first and foremost. It's just getting people out of the offices, getting them off, public transit, and ensuring their safety and well-being. The second goal was to really think about how we support our clients, and obviously with the volume of activity around rescheduling and cancellations, and just making sure that we were there for our clients to help them through, provide them tools to do things in a bulk kind of way, rather than having to deal with individual transactions, and whatever we could do to assist in allowing them to cope and provide the best outcome for their patrons and fans and their consumers. So that was our second sort of core priority. The third was our own financial well-being, and obviously, we've suffered along with our clients and our industry peers in the same way that a lot of our revenue and our cash flow, our ability to pay our employees and pay for our rent and our infrastructure is tied to the variable revenue component of fees on ticket sales, and the vast majority of our revenue is tied to our clients' ability to sell tickets and the fees they pay us as a result of us helping them with that. And so as a business leader, one day, literally waking up and thinking about growth and what the 2020 year ahead was going to look like, and some of the things that we wanted to do to innovate and strengthen the business and provide more tools and support to our clients, for the normal world. I actually went away on vacation at the end of February and literally came back and went, okay, we're shutting down the office. We're going to be, running this business with no inflows of cash. And we're going to have to find a way to manage across, what we thought at the time back in late February, early March would be maybe a 4 to 6 month period of prolonged industry downturn. That was kind of our initial thinking. But when you assume that you're going to have no cash coming in, you've got to do things to protect the business, in the best interest of our clients for the long term, all stakeholders, employees, shareholders, and clients. And so we took a difficult decision to furlough over half our staff, in order to ensure our long-term viability. We, put some additional capital in place, to give us a backstop. And we, we've been riding it out. Now, thankfully, the world is starting to see some, green shoots of recovery. We're no longer thinking it's a 6 month period. We're obviously thinking now well into 2021, and we've continued to shore up our financial position to make sure that we can ride that out. But it does mean, making decisions in terms of your business operation. So those were really difficult decisions. And then the fourth sort of category was something that we'll probably get to in a little while, which is really, what are the learnings coming out of this? How do we strengthen ourselves as an organization, whether it's process, whether it's technology, or how do we better prepare ourselves for what will be, inevitably another industry sort of event, and maybe it's a pandemic or maybe it's something else, but just to make sure that we're capturing, learnings and best practices to improve and grow. So those, from a leadership point of view, those were the four things that I sort of spent my day on in one of those camps. And to this day, I think it's still valid in terms of, where we're spending our time.
No, it's very that was a very comprehensive answer. So thank you. I mean, it's a lot to bite off of, right? When we saw each other in New York in January, I don't think either one of us were expecting what we've been dealing with, and and it's it's great to hear somebody be so thoughtful about the way they the approach here, because I do think that the 4 to 6 month thing was that seemed reasonable at the time, and as it has adjusted, or as our expectations have adjusted, it's been really difficult for people to know how to deal with things, and that kind of leads me to partly about mindset and partly about innovation. But how are you keeping people motivated, and how are you keeping the business moving forward when there's still so much uncertainty? And like you said, now we're kind of thinking it's going to be 2021 before things come back. It's tough, I think, for people to be motivated, for people sometimes to see the light at the end of the tunnel, to keep, their focus on, moving forward, because it can be very, speaking as an American, it can be kind of daunting what we're dealing with.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and there's a lot of aspects to this, but I think fundamentally we view this as an unfortunate opportunity. Unfortunate that we need to go through it, but an opportunity for us to come out of this in a stronger position for our clients. And what I mean by that is we're, as AudienceView has been growing quite aggressively over the last several years with 3 acquisitions, and along with those acquisitions, we had a number of ticketing systems that we were building, innovating, and maintaining and delivering to clients. And while that sort of makes sense because it gives us the scale to address industry problems across multiple segments in multiple geographies, from the largest organizations down to the 99-seat theater. Doing that efficiently gets more difficult the more systems you have to enhance, innovate, and maintain. So what we're doing during this sort of industry pause is we're taking the opportunity to consolidate our client base onto a handful of core products that will really allow us to focus that engineering capacity and resource and build more features in fewer places rather than less features in more places, if that makes sense. So we think that by having fewer products, but the same concentration of engineering and innovation, we can move our clients forward much, much quicker than spreading that out across multiple products. And I think that efficiency will really bear fruit in a post-COVID world where we look at that feature set that's going to be really essential to our clients. It may not have been the features that they were looking for in a pre-COVID world, but the world's changed, and we want to be nimble and still have a capacity to drive that innovation forward in support of what matters most as we come out of this COVID cycle. So from our employee standpoint, that's incredibly motivating, and our employees are working just phenomenally hard at executing this product consolidation and migration process to really allow our clients to get onto that sort of long-term system as quickly and as painlessly as possible, and doing it while things are a little bit quieter on the industry front.
No, and the way you framed it is, I think, great, because one of the things I don't want to discount anybody's concerns or suffering, but what I try to tell people all the time is like, going, this does suck. And like you said, was it a unfortunate opportunity? It is an unfortunate opportunity because, like, you do have a chance to recreate your business and to rethink some of the assumptions that you've been making about how you do things, and you can do it with almost a blank slate, which can be scary, but it, as it sounds like from talking to you here, very exciting for people. And and that's the kind of the spin I try to put on it. It's like all those things that you never thought you'd have a chance to do. Now's a great time to try some of them. And and that's the kind of mindset I try to, share with people. Because, it is, how do I want to say it? It's, it is unfortunate, but by focusing on, like you are, on, innovation and consolidation and creating a better product, it also helps people focus on something positive, which is, probably the fastest way to make sure their mindsets are correct or, in the right place. And, they aren't overwhelmed by the day-to-day news or the fact that there aren't shows going on because they're working on something that's awesome.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you don't get this opportunity, thankfully, very often, thankfully. But, for us, our plan was always to move towards, a more sort of trimmed down, portfolio of key ticketing systems, and then start building what we call our common modules that would work across any of those ticketing systems, because things like payment processing, to build support for a new payment method in multiple systems is inefficient. But if we have a single payment service, then all our ticketing clients can benefit from us adding innovation in terms of new payment methods or other aspects of outside the core ticketing engine, and doing it in one place. We build it once and every customer gets a benefit immediately, as opposed to having to do it in multiple places. So this architectural product strategy around having more common components has been a strategy that we've been quietly working on for quite some time. This industry pause has actually allowed us to, and in some respects forced us to accelerate that direction, that vision, because it allows us to take cost out of the business as well. That wasn't the motivation initially as we set that vision. We truly believe innovation will happen on, as I said, more features on fewer products versus less features on more products. So we've always believed that that's where our innovation is going to come from. But the reality is, we're all adjusting in terms of business realities. And for us to have fewer products with fewer data centers and less PCI compliance audits and like this, there is a cost element to this that has given us the comfort that now is the time to accelerate this transition.
Yeah. And, I think that sometimes when you're looking at, change, people are afraid of it, and I think that's universal because that's sort of how, as a species, we've evolved. But you still have, I guess the way I put it recently before our pandemic happened was I gave a speech and I said, look, you have two choices, right? You can pretend that you can stick your head in the sand and pretend you're an ostrich, like change isn't coming, or you can embrace it and you can influence it. And you can, you can't control it, but you can influence it and make it go in a direction that's more to your pleasing, which is what you've kind of done. One of the things that I really have enjoyed seeing you do is like the patron's perspective, and a lot of stuff around community engagement and learning and education. And as somebody who has a small platform like me, doing some similar stuff, I'm kind of curious about the learning and the education and the community aspect of what you're doing, because you have, like we talked about, you have a great opportunity to help people understand how to use the technology better, help them guide some of the changes that they need to make or want to make based on the pandemic, and create something better out of, this situation we're dealing with. What kind of guides the way that you put the education and the community engagement together? And what are some of the exciting insights or things you've learned from, putting the effort into this?
There's many here. So, how long we got? No, just kidding.
We got all day.
We got all day. Yeah, you've got the last call with the edits, so you can clean that up. But no, so seriously here, the interesting thing is we have 4,500 clients across the globe. And as I said, we have quite a range in all, segments of the market, whether that be music or performing arts or sports and and college athletics and student life. So we've got, I think, one of the broadest user bases in the industry, and the collective wisdom of that, those 4,500 clients is incredible. And so we don't pretend to know everything. We don't pretend that we can navigate through this post-COVID world, this post-pandemic reality, and be only take a leading position. We also have to follow. And how do you follow? You engage with your clients. You engage in discussion, and you bring them together in discussion, because that's where the best learnings are coming out. And it's amazing to see. We've always seen this with our client base when we've had our customer conferences, whether they're physical or online, that what an organization in performing arts can learn from sports or college athletics or vice versa. So we've really always encouraged our clients to work together and solve problems, because they typically don't compete with each other, right? These are more geographically based. A theater in Boston doesn't compete with a college athletics program in California. So the collaboration has always been there. What we've tried to do is build some tools to kickstart that in a more meaningful way. Now, we're pushing our educational content out through those tools, but we're opening it up for that broader community to engage with us and with each other as people think through these realities. And as I said, no playbook here. I don't have one. Our clients don't have one. So it's going to be sort of crowdsourced in terms of what's the best path forward. And then we'll leverage that, to build tools as we see, the direction the industry needs to go to solve some of these problems. And so let me give you an example. One of the things we're spending a lot of time on right now is streaming and this hybridization of events. And many clients are talking about socially distanced venues, which from an economic point of view, I'm not sure how that works, right? If by the time you space everybody out and, remove seats or whatever you're doing, you're down to maybe 30% capacity in the house. And I'm not sure, not all content can be successful with a 30% fill of the house or the venue, in case of sports. But by having a combination of live attendance as well as virtual attendance and live streaming, then that opens up a different customer or patron catchment. You're not marketing and campaigning to your database of patrons in your local geographic area anymore, because if I love a comedian or a music artist, it doesn't matter where I am in the world. And so all of a sudden you got to think differently about how do you reach the fan or the patron, the consumer that really wants to engage in that content. And with virtual events, you're limitless. There's no borders. So we think that our unique position with our consumer branded properties, Theatre Mania in North America, What's on Stage in the UK, Laugh Stub, Electro Stub, Tune Stub, we have 7+ million active users on those consumer sites, and they are the future audience as you move to this hybrid model of live in person and virtual on the streaming side. And we think we can bring that audience to our clients in a very unique way. So one of the things we've done with this technology strategy, the first thing we've done is connected up our ticketing systems so that you can publish those events directly into those consumer sites and reach an audience that is much further out than the 50 miles that you would typically market to around the physical venue. And this is, collaboration from clients. They're saying, hey, well, we got to find a way to survive in a world where there's restrictions on how many people we can actually seat in the venue when we're able to open. And I think that's really exciting. And we're delighted with the position we have to really bring that audience development model to our clients, so that they can be successful reaching a much broader patron set going forward. And those will become future ticket buyers, donors, you name it.
Yeah, I think, you see the conversations about, how the digital doesn't translate as well. And I look at it as like a really great opportunity as people are rethinking what they're doing now to take this moment of reset and ask themselves what their value proposition is to their audience, how we can create an audience that we can keep and engage, and then using these digital opportunities as ways to seed some of the physical stuff, because the reality is that a pandemic like this comes about every 100 years. And people have always come back to shows. So it like you said, like we've talked about, it's a pause. It's an unfortunate thing, but I think it's recognizing where the trend is, and that trend is that people are were spending money, more and more and more money on live experiences before the pandemic started. The opportunity should be, how do I take this moment where things kind of have been shut down and use it as a launching point for even greater growth going forward, and I'd be curious if you've, some of the conversations and some of the learnings that you've had the opportunity to gain so far have been people rethinking things like that. Well, what can we use to tease our live experience so that these digital things don't just become sort of, an end all be all, but they're part of a larger customer conversation?
Yeah, I think again, this is where our community comes into play, because they're the ones that are sort of thinking, collaborating amongst each other within their own organizations and with us to see where that sort of inventive engagement model can come from. But yeah, so digital content for sure. But there's things that you can still do even in a socially distanced world about engaging your customers, your patrons, to the venue, whether it be tours, limited obviously in terms of numbers, getting backstage access, things like that. So I think the most important thing we can do as a vendor is not necessarily dictate or tell our clients this is how you should engage your patrons, because everyone's different, and their ability to engage in certain ways varies from client to client. But what we want to make sure we're doing is giving them the most flexibility with those tools, in whether it's our marketing console that publishes their events into our consumer properties, our marketing automation solutions that allows them to highly segment and then push offers out to those customers that may have nothing to do with a physical event, like a live event. It may be something unique. It could be we're seeing a lot of organizations move to outdoor models. We've seen the sort of drive-in theater style concerts and things like that. So I think the reality is there's so many different things that clients are doing. It's the flexibility to be able to do those quickly and efficiently, because let's face it, everyone's operating with less staff. And so, what we can't do is make the ticketing system, and when I say ticketing system, I mean marketing, I mean CRM, I mean fundraising. We can't make the ticketing system a barrier to them quickly achieving those things. And some of them are going to be trial and error. So you just can't spend hours and hours on something and then, find out it's not going to work and rip it down and start with something else. So that's our focus, is listening to the market, but making sure the tools are really flexible, fast, efficient, and to the degree we can automated, to get that efficiency in there, because they are operating with less headcount, less staff to do all this work.
And the point you make too about figuring out how to automate and use things better is important, because I have been running a little survey through my newsletter and through the podcast and everything. And one of the key takeaways that I've learned from talking to people all over the world, has been they want to learn how to use the systems more effectively, and they want to use the full breadth and the full power of some of the technologies. I mean, the AudienceView platform is a really great example of something that probably people don't recognize how powerful it is, or don't use it to its full capacity in all cases. During this time, are there examples of how you're helping people learn to use the technology better, or taking people through the education process so that they can maximize, the system, especially considering there is less staff and there are different needs for engagement with their audience?
Yeah, there's many examples, and I think what it comes down to is what's back to what you were talking about, this education and community. And so, we've spent an enormous amount of time over the last 6 months, from the start of this COVID crisis, in building content that quickly allows clients to figure out how to do, bulk moves in terms of reseating of a rescheduled event, bulk cancellations and refunds, things around, the marketing automation of what offers and follow-ups do you drive out to people, how they engage in those virtual streaming events, and how do we help them manage their registration processes for those things. We're not done. I mean, there's plenty more. We don't have every feature, every tool in the toolbox that our clients need. I don't think any system does. We recognize that. And again, with our scale, with our large engineering commitment, we're able to innovate very quickly and build some of those things. But as you said, a lot of this was already in our product set, and it's really been an education process. And so, this week we have a sort of an online conference for many of our clients, where we've got, a massive program of video content and best practices and how-to tips, and we've got literally hundreds of users going through this content this week as we speak. And so we continue to invest substantial amount of effort in education, learning, and collaboration with our clients, because that's where the community matters most. That's where the insight's coming from, and we're going to try and facilitate that, but not get in the way.
Yeah, no, I have always been a proponent or an advocate for telling people, like, the only limit on any of these things that in most cases, is your creativity. And fortunately for all of us, that is a limitless well, because creativity is something we all have access to. And, placing such emphasis on the community, right, and crowdsourcing these ideas, I can't underline that enough, because like you talked about earlier, a theater is not necessarily competing with a sports venue in a lot of cases, but the learning that you can take from that can be so powerful, and and vice versa, right? And giving people access in ways that is unique. You could learn that, because I've taken backstage tours of theaters before. You could apply that to sports. It's just really a great opportunity, to see how other people are doing things, how you could do something a little bit better. The thing I would encourage people is take what works for you. You don't have to take everything just as it is. You can put your own spin on it. It's it's really like great when all the content I see coming through from you guys. It's like, it's been really well done, and it's like so consistent. So, being somebody who does some of this stuff, I applaud you for it, because it can, it doesn't always come out as well as you'd hope. So everybody's done a really great job on that.
Well, thank you for that. And I think, in some respects, we've been fortunate in terms of our ability to invest in that relative to some of our peers, only because we have a strong financial backer that is, backstop the company. And even though we did furlough quite a number of staff, we've actually brought back a large number of those staff, because we have the sort of the financial strength and certainty to do things that if you had asked me 3 months ago, I would have said we'd be in a different position. But because of our comfort with our financial position, we're able to invest in these things that we wouldn't have before. But we still need to be efficient. We still need to put, more wood behind fewer arrows. And so, we're continuing to do that, but the education component and the community component, has been front and center, through all of this. And we're delighted that, it's being seen out there as very positive and professionally done, because we do put a lot of effort into it.
Yeah. Now, before we wrap up, I want to ask you one or two things about revenue and recovery, because a lot of times what I end up talking about is money, which is, in short supply for people right now. And I guess I'll put it in the context of recovery, right? We talked about the virtual platforms, virtual events, some of these things. As we are able to start selling shows and events again, where are some of the new revenue opportunities going to come from, or where are some of the revenue things that your clients are talking about? If there are like some new ideas or some things that people are investigating maybe that they weren't thinking through before.
Again, there's variety of thinking, but I think the common themes that I'm hearing, and it's early days, right? Like, let's face it, most of them are just trying to get ticket sales back, and because there are limits to where how much revenue you can generate without events, because the events are the centerpiece of their engagement. But I think it's this combination of live streaming and live, and having a different sort of ticket price model for, obviously the premium to be live in a socially distanced venue is going to be quite high. Many clients are concerned about the economic exclusionary aspects of that, though. And so, going to try and keep that price reasonable. But then when you open up into virtual, you have limitless seating. So that's interesting to many clients, and how do you tap into that? And again, I think that's where we can really help them. I think, getting back to, basics in the industry, and looking at donations as a key source of bridging strategy. Like, many clients are really fortunate to have strong supporters in their organizations, their communities, that's allowing them to tap into a fundraising strategy to help bridge them across. In terms of like new revenue streams, I think, everything I'm hearing is saying, well, we're going to dabble at this, dabble at that. But it's tours, it's packaging, merchandise if you're a sports organization. But I'm not sure where those inventive revenue strategies are going to come from, because I think people are still really focused on getting something back on stage, back on the field or on the court. And again, we'll work with them to enable that, in whether it's a trial basis, piloting different things, quickly testing the market on different ideas that they have. But I don't think there's a silver bullet out there to say, beyond selling tickets, this new revenue stream is going to be, substantial revenue generator for the organization. So I think we got to get those events back on.
Yeah, I think that you said it very well when you talked about we need to test, and that's sort of been a theme of our conversation today, is the idea that, like, we don't know for certain what's going to work or what's not going to work. We have to become really, really comfortable with testing and learning and adjusting. And, I don't know if there's a better definition for innovation than that. And, it's been really, I know so many people that work with AudienceView and all the different places. So I know seeing the work that you've been doing, has been really cool for me, because I know how much effort everybody's putting into it. And it's been really great to talk to you about this stuff, because, I think innovation and creativity is going to get us through this. And when I see the stuff that you guys are doing, it's just, it's really exciting for me. So thank you for doing the conversation. Where can I point people to find out more about you, or to find out more about what AudienceView is working on?
I think I would suggest pointing to our website, at AudienceView.com. We've got a ton of content on there. As you said, we've been very active in this regard. We've issued a press release recently that talks about our technology strategy and our sort of response to this pandemic and what we're doing and how we're evolving. And of course, we have a substantial amount of information around our products and services and partnerships. So yeah, I would say check out our website, have a look at our recent press release. I've got a blog post that I've done recently around our product consolidation, that also talks to a bit more around our vision and where we're going. I think, find me on LinkedIn. But it's been great talking to you. I think you've done a great job of keeping the industry engaged. And yes, you get to the revenue components quite often. I love that. But I think that's on brand. Reality. Yeah. Well, but it's reality, right? And I think about, I put myself in the shoes of our clients, and I think about what do I think about every day if I'm them, and they need to think about many things, but obviously. How are they going to get through this? How do they survive? But when they come out the other side, they need to have a ticketing and a technology partner that's stable, that's there for them, and can adjust and innovate with them in that trial and error mode. And again, we're excited with this community we have and the ability to have those conversations with clients and ensure them that we're going to be there. Their data, is safe in our system, and it's going to be available to them for years to come, because we'll be there every step of the way.
Yeah, no, I would definitely, if anybody's has any questions, they should definitely talk to you and your team, because I speak highly of them everywhere I go. So not that that's a commercial for AudienceView, but if it's a commercial because it's coming from me, so be it. Mark, thank you so much for doing the podcast.
My pleasure, Dave. And thanks for having me on, and look forward to following you in the weeks to come.
Let me know what you thought about my conversation with Mark. Send me an email. It's dave@davewakeman.com. Make sure you check out my website. It's davewakeman.com, where you can find out all the stuff I'm up to. You can find my blog. You can find everything. Make sure you connect with me on the social media. As I'm at David Wakeman on Twitter. I'm still looking for that at Dave Wakeman Twitter handle. If you can find that guy, he hasn't tweeted in 10 years, over a decade. Get the thing for me. I want it. Make sure you connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search for me. I'm at Dave Wakeman. Make sure you check out my friends and partners, Booking Protect. Look at what Sophie's doing on Instagram with photos, quotes, all kinds of cool stuff about the live entertainment industry and bringing memories into our streams to help us keep a positive mindset going forward. Visit the Booking Protect website at bookingprotect.com to find out how you can offer your fans and your customers refund protection now. But also there's just tons of great articles and tons of great lessons learned and resources there about rebuilding trust with your customers, building relationships with your customers, leadership, revenue, all kinds of stuff. And we're going to put a whole lot more stuff up there. So check that out. That's bookingprotect.com. Visit my friends at ActivityStream, activitystream.com. They are the people who have put together the We Will Recover initiative. And WeWillRecover.live is a home for everything, or maybe not everything, but a lot of stuff to help you figure out how to recover from the pandemic. I listed all the people at the very start. I always list the same people because I am a numpty. But check it out at WeWillRecover.live. There's classes, videos, blogs, ideas, checklists, all kinds of great stuff, and it's constantly expanding. So check them out at WeWillRecover.live and go to activitystream.com to check out what Martin and Einar are doing so that you can make sure that you are set up for success when this is over, hopefully sooner rather than later. As always, I want to thank you for being here. It's such an honor to be able to talk to you all once, twice, sometimes more a week. And so make sure that if you are struggling, if you need somebody to talk to, if you just want me to try to make you laugh, send me an email, dave@davewakeman.com. Actually, the laugh thing, I think I can do. My neighbors came over. We sat in the cul-de-sac in front of each of our houses, and they had the guys laughing so loud that all the neighbors were yelling at us at 2 o'clock on Saturday night. So I think I can even fulfill the laughter portion of this. But I just want to make sure everybody's okay. Send me an email, dave@davewakeman.com. I would love to hear from you. Check out the Talking Tickets newsletter at talkingtickets.substack.com. This is so much easier to tell people to go to now. And make sure, if you haven't already, take part in the Talking Tickets survey. It'll help me understand what ideas, what tools, what things you need to help set you up for success in the future. As always, thank you for being here. And until next time, take it easy. I'll talk to you again soon.